Hello. It is, my name is Omar. That it is 4:49 p.m., December 17th, 2020. So I have been posting some tweets and very short videos of changes in my blood pressure, heart rate, ECG, and so on, that is directly related to these signals that are bouncing off my body. The blood pressure also shows the pain level. So right now the power is turned off, completely off. And it's on again, which makes sense because it is on and off. It is an on and off system. So this is what makes me nauseous and sometimes lose my balance. So these are areas that are tagged right now and are sore. The heart. Now you notice if I put my hand on there and I leave it, it goes to 0. And the power turned down, so it's not triggering the alarm. But there is a reading there because that's the way the algorithm works. So let's try the other hand. So the system went off there. Oh, here we go. Very good demonstration of what I mean when I say the blood pressure is going up and down, the temperature is going up and down, the pain level is going up and down, the heart rate is going up and down, because the power and the system is going on and off and up and down. So it's changing second by second, or millisecond by millisecond, actually. So I'll show you what I mean by these fluctuations. So I'll show you the PI. And this is what experimentation looks like, because data is being gathered. My body is being data mined. This is what data mining looks like. Your body is being accessed remotely, and it is being acted upon by certain technologies, certain people, certain words, certain triggers, that is meant to change your physiology, your feelings, your physiology, just what I was trying to say, and it gives a feedback, a direct feedback of these changes. So somebody's picking up signals from my body and a databasing it and studying it. So this is what it means to be a live guinea pig, kind of like openly admitted, this is not conspiracy theory, it's openly admitted that the people who are taking the COVID vaccines are being used as guinea pigs. I talked to my doctor and I asked her the question and she agrees. Nobody knows how it's going to work out in the long run. So it is an experiment. So, so the PI there is 9. So the PI scale, which is the circulation in the finger, the peripheral points in the body, like the fingertips, 0 to 20 is the range. And in my case, about 14 is the median, the average. So and sometimes it falls all the way down to 0.3, and it goes all the way up to 26. I've seen it as high. And in those extremes, those two extremes, it affects my blood pressure, my heart rate, and my oxygen level. Too high drops the oxygen level. Too low increases the blood pressure. Way too high. So that's and I'm going to keep this on, and I'll show you how it's changing as I'm talking. So that's as much as I'm going to say about the signals, because I've been tweeting all along about it. Today I'm going to read, because I'm on a learning curve here. Things are changing so fast. COVID-19 made the whole world aware that we are entering the fourth revolution. The step into, well, not step into, we actually stepped into it a while ago. The official unfolding of the digital era. Everything is going to be digitized. Everything is going to be digitized about ourselves, our environment, about our interaction with the environment, our interaction with people. These things are all going to be database and mined for information. We're going to be studied like specimens by the professionals, quote unquote, who would know better than us, because we are repeatedly being told by people like Justin Trudeau to listen to the professionals. Well, we all know that there are several professionals not working for Justin Trudeau who has different opinions from the ones working for Justin Trudeau. So listening to the professionals have different meanings to me. I listen to a lot of professionals, including the one working for Justin Trudeau and the ones who don't have the same opinions as his professionals. So, and this is what democracy is all about. It's not a democratic system where the prime minister tells you who to listen to when it affects your health, and how to make up an opinion, how to arrive at a conclusion. He didn't tell you how to think, in other words. This is a communistic approach. This is something a dictator do, not someone in a democratic society. I personally think that he is following Castro's template. So that's as much as I'm going to say about that. So there is an article that I wanted to read, and this is in very fine print. So I have to put my glasses on here because I'm using my small computer with a small screen, and this PDF has a very small print. So this article that I found on the World Economic Forum is about digital IDs. So it's and I'll post the link. It's titled Identity in the Digital World, a New Chapter in the Social Contract, an Insight Report. So here are some general comments about the digital ID that we're going to have in the very near future, because Doug Ford already wrote it out. Our identity is precious. Any digital identity program must be based on enabling meaningful trust, control, and accountability. Okay. Yet, even agreeing these principles are proving hard. Implementing them will be even more so because of a confluence of political, economic, technological, cultural, legal, and social factors. So that's Amanda Long, Director General, Consumers International. So these people are affiliated with the World Economic Forum. So if designed well, digital identities can foster inclusion, in almost all aspects of lives in transformational ways. For smallholder farmers, they hold the potential to help overcome the pervasive issues of social, economic, and geographic isolation and fragmentation, which are at the root of poverty, and do so at an unprecedented scale. So all sorts of nice comments about why we should have one. Digital identity is a powerful force for both positive and negative human experience. To create a digital that is positive and sustainable for the long term, we must develop user-centered solutions that enhance user safety, control, and benefit. Okay, so as introduction. So this is the foreword. As more people, devices, and associated personal data get online, there is growing focus on the foundational elements of these new digital environment, our identities. The ability to prove that we are who we say we are will increasingly determine our opportunities to establish trust with each other and to carry out meaningful interactions in a digital economy. All over the world, a growing number of organizations from the public and private sectors are advancing systems that establish and verify digital identities for people, devices, and other entities. This community is expanding in scope, growing beyond traditional identity practitioners to include a broader set of actors exploring the promises and perils of digital identities, from domains such as healthcare, financial services, humanitarian responses, and more. Yet we are still learning what identity in a digital world means. We are also still evolving policies and practices on how best to collect, process, or use identity-related data in ways that empower individuals without infringing on their freedoms or causing them harm. It's a very long report. It's 38 pages long. So I'm just going to pick off a few points, and I'll allow you to go and do your own research. Mostly I find when somebody else do the talking, people just, it goes in one ear, it's come out the other. When you go do your own research, you tend to retain more information, number one, and number two, you think about what you read. At the World Economic Forum's annual meeting 2018 in Davos, a diverse group of public and private stakeholders committed to shared cooperation on advancing good user-centric digital identities. Okay, so it came from the business world. The need for one came from the business world. These are the drivers. This publication reflects the collective insights. So the other stakeholders were policymakers, politicians, business executives, practitioners, rights advocate, humanitarian organization, and civil society. So this publication reflects their collective insights, synthesized and translated into a format useful for decision makers and practitioners. So those are just pretty much the first few sentences in the paragraphs. So the executive summary, which is pretty much a summarization of exactly what it says, a summarization of the report. And it's probably better just for me to pick off the points here. Our identity is literally who we are as digital technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, the fourth industrial revolution. So let me backtrack a little bit and talk about COVID-19. Isn't it funny how COVID-19 happened and suddenly we are into this fourth industrial revolution? And the COVID-19 are enabling this vaccination program that aims to vaccinate everyone, every single person on the face of the earth, which has never been done before, with a vaccine that speaks to RNA. I talked to my doctor about this, and she said she studied this in detail while she was at U of T. I think it was U of T. She actually studied genetics. And I asked her whether it affects her DNA, and she says, no, it doesn't backtrack. So the messenger RNA just programs your cells to do certain things, but it doesn't backtrack into the DNA, because the DNA is a storage changes that takes place. But is that a final answer? I'm not saying she's lying. I'm sure she's not. But the fact is, the area is still under study. And there are some scientists who think that it does backtrack. And we don't know for sure. So, and plus, you know, if certain things doesn't backtrack, then why is it that when you go to the doctor and they ask for your medical history, they ask you, did your mother have diabetes, or did your parents have cancer? And cancer is supposed to be something that is not in your DNA, at least from what I read. So I think the area is still being experimented with and learned about. So as digital services explode, the billions of elements in our everyday lives become connected to the individuals are losing control of how they're represented digitally in their interactions with institutions. Others lack any digital identity at all, essentially excluding them from digital life. The result is a challenge to the social contracts that govern the relationships between individuals and institutions in a digital world. If we fail to act now, we could face a future in which digital identity widens the divide between the digital haves and have-nots, a future where nearly all individuals lack choice, trust, and rights in the online world. And keep in mind that our world is going to be online from now on. Our relationships are going to be online. We're not going to be traveling in a sustainable future. We're not going to be traveling a lot. We're not going to have a lot of contact because we're going to be vaccinated. And we're going to be told to wear a mask, and we're going to be told not to congregate, and not kiss, and not have physical sex, or sex is also going virtual. So everything is going to be digital. So if you don't have a digital identity, then you don't have a life and you don't exist. If you're not digitized, you don't exist, pretty much. If we act wisely today, digital identities can help transform the future for billions of individuals all over the world, enabling them to access new economic, political, and social opportunities while enjoying digital safety, privacy, and other human rights. So that's the case for having one. And I'm sure down this, I haven't read the whole thing. They said it's 38 pages long. I skimmed it. From my university days, I learned to, because I was working full-time and doing courses, I learned to speed read. So I learned to just read the first few sentences in each paragraph. And normally that's where the gist is. And the rest of the paragraph is just expansion on the main idea. The need for shared understanding and coordinated action. Digital identities have evolved. They are no longer simple and isolated pieces of information about individuals, but complex webs crossing the internet of the personal data, digital history, and the interferences that algorithms can draw from this data mining. Our digital identities are increasingly embedded in everything we do in our daily lives. So everything we do is going to be on the net, and everything we do is going to be data mined, database and data mined. So there are five factors that need to be present to succeed. So fit for purpose, good digital identities offer a reliable way for individuals to build trust in who they claim to be, to exercise their rights and freedoms, and to demonstrate their eligibility to access services. So you have to have one to access services. Inclusive identity enable anyone who needs it to establish and use a digital identity. free of risk of discrimination. Okay, fine. So it must be useful to access a wide range of useful services, offers choice. An individual have a choice when they can see how systems use their data and are able to choose what data they share, and security, of course. So 5 points. So priorities for collaboration. Government, private sector, and civil society communities from the World Economic Forum Network have identified 6 priority areas for collaboration to help shape digital identities of the future. Moving the emphasis beyond identity for all to identities, for all to moving the emphasis beyond identity for all that deliver use of value for all to identities that I think there is a spelling error there. Creating metrics and accountability for good identity, building new governance models for digital identity ecosystems, promoting stewardship of good identity, encouraging partnerships around best practices and interoperability where appropriate. Wow. Tell me, would a farmer in India be able to understand this stuff? Innovating with technologies and models and building a library of successful pilots. Vague. I have a degree in economics. I was actually enrolled in the BCom program, which unfortunately I didn't get a chance to complete. But my background makes this stuff easy. But for the average person on the street, it's not easy. Chapter 1 explains, so the publication is about just summarizing. Chapter 1 explains the importance of digital identities. Chapter 2, just picking off the first sentences here. Chapter 2 explores what a good identity system, which delivers the 5 key elements of value to individuals, could look like. Chapter 3 explains the emerging trends, opportunities, and challenges for designers, policymakers, and other stakeholders to consider as they advance towards good digital identities. Identifies and explores 6 priority areas. Went through that. And there's an appendix. Okay, so that's summarization. So gives you a good idea of what the article is all about. And the rest of it is just an expansion of those points. So the idea of having a digital identity to me is scary. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's scary because you have under one identity, you have everything associated about yourself online attached to it. Could you think of the possibilities of what the criminals could do with it? So shaping social contracts, identity. Nothing is as fundamental to human beings as identity. Our identity is literally who we are, a combination of personal history, innate and learned beliefs and behaviors, and a bundle of cultural, family, national, teen, gender, or other identities. However we understand it, identity always matters. Our identity is important because it exists in relation to others. Okay, so we talk about identity and get a detail here. The earliest definition of the, okay, fine. Or maybe I should start at the top here. Throughout history, we see again and again hard-fought battles and revolutions where individuals demand recognition and rights, from no taxation without representation to the ending of apartheid. How individuals are represented in society has been the bedrock for reimagining and renegotiating the rights, freedoms, and responsibilities of individuals and the organizations to which they relate. The earliest definition of the polis and citizen in ancient Greece, the Magna Carta, and the US Constitution were all acts that defined the social contracts between people and institutions. History of what makes up our identity. Whether or we want it or not, our identity is increasingly digital, distributed, and a decider of what products, services, and information we access. This identity online is not simply a matter of a web login or online avatar. It is the sum total of the growing and evolving mass of information about us, our profiles, and the history of our activities online. It relates to inferences made about us based on this mass of information, which become new data points. So your identity is not only the number, it's everything you put online, basically. It is a powerful thing to think that everything about you, or everything that you put on the net about you, or said about you on the net, can be pulled by anybody, and anybody can form an opinion on what the data they extract. And it doesn't have to be the full picture. Digital identity evolving scope, authentication, process that determine if authenticators use fingerprints, passwords to claim an identity are valid. Profile may include inherent data attributes such as biometrics, or assigned attributes such as names or national identifier numbers. History, credit or medical histories, online purchasing behaviors, inferences, budgets or decisions made based on authentication processes, profiles, and history. So very, very in-depth analysis. Identity in everyday life. So here they've got a little diagram and a circle and all these contact points that will use your identity online. Healthcare, financial services, food and sustainability, food. For farmers and consumers to verify provenance of produce, to enhance value and traceability in supply chains. Travel and mobility, humanitarian responses, e-commerce, social platforms, e-government, telecommunications, smart cities, to monitor devices and sensors transmitting data such as energy usage, air quality, traffic congestion. Healthcare is at the top. So as I said, and that's page 10. So they talk about farmers. They talk about these areas in more detail. Pretty much they took the executive summary and broke it down. So who's who in digital identity? Historically, and I'm just picking off points here as I go down the pages. Historically, an identity ecosystem often have just two participants, two people who recognized each other. Today, a digital identity ecosystem has many different actors. The individuals who need a digital identity to safely access digital systems and transactions, entities such as devices, group of devices, legal entities, and physical and virtual assets that individuals may own or use, which also need digital identities. Trust anchors, authoritative sources of identity proofing. I'm not quite sure what that means myself. The controller or delegate of the identity data, typically a trust anchor such as a government. Okay, so that's what trust anchors mean. Who has the ability to control the identity data. the operator of the identity system, who may be the entity that issues and owns the identity, and who may be a separate organization, such as a third-party technology service provider that acts on behalf of the system owner. So could you imagine that the system goes down and everything about you is attached to this digital ID in the digital world, and you're not able to buy tickets to get on a bus, or not buy, well, you don't have to do that anymore, but say renew whatever it is you need to renew to get on the bus, or do your banking, or call a cab, or buy food online. Could you imagine that? In other words, we are so controlled. We're going to be completely and utterly controlled. Federated networks can offer individuals access to a wide range of transactions using a single set of credentials compared to solitary centralized systems. Federations of systems. And they gave some examples of what's already being done. So 5 key elements of designing user-centric digital identity: portable, interoperable, acceptable, responsive. It's a very well thought out report. And I could see a lot of there is a wide and deep knowledge base behind the content of the report. And it projects into the future in many different, from many different angles. And it gives you a really good idea of where our world is headed. Again, trust the professionals, because an article like this, you have to be a fairly sophisticated thinker to be able to understand. This report and take it in, and not only to understand it, but to project based on it, to go forward, to take it as a jumping off point, which is why I read, basically. I don't, let me explain that comment. I don't only read for the content, because to me, the content is something that somebody else already thought of. I read for projecting on the content. I read to be triggered, for a lack of a better word, into thinking in a certain area and projecting based on what I read. So if that makes sense to you. So that's a little bit more than half an hour. And like I said, 38 pages long. And I just picked off a few of the points just to give you an idea of where Klaus Schwab is taking us. It would seem to me that the world got together, some of the leaders in the world got together and are talking about where they're going to take our world. They're sitting together in little groups, in groups and conference rooms and so on, and they're discussing all these topics, and they're talking about where they're going to take our world. So here you have in India, you have this the farmer who is on his land, and he probably has a tractor, or he probably has a bison or something, and he's going on with his life. And here comes big corporations and the government and turns his life upside down overnight, like COVID-19 did. This is not a grassroots-based, community-based system that is being put into place. The system is not to make the people on the ground happy and fulfilled. And I keep coming back to this point. The system that's being put into place is what they talk about sustainability. And we're, oh my God, the earth is dying overnight. It's gonna disappear on us. We're gonna stop breathing. Never mind COVID-19 stopped us from breathing, but the pollution is gonna stop us from breathing. We have to do this in 10 years. My face is being hit. So everything has to change so quickly. So this change is putting pressure on people, and a lot of people are going to die. They're just going to die of depression because of lack of money, lack of support. Their livelihood is gone. Their culture is gone. Their way of life is gone. They're just going to kill themselves, and they are in India. So this is all being done, not for the good of the people, but for the good of the few at the top to make money. We have the technology, so let's do it because it's easier to make money this way, basically, and control the people. Anyway, talk to you later. So my nose is starting to run and I'm going to start sneezing soon. Talk to you another time.